The Planet Green Trees Show.
Join the Michigan Medical Marijuana Association today. MichiganMedicalMarijuana.org. The MMMA is focused on the well-being and safety of medical marijuana patients. The MMMA site provides the most comprehensive and up-to-date news on legal issues, politics, research, cultivation, as well as the various strange products and methods of cannabis use. Come join the discussion with the most knowledgeable and passionate advocates in Michigan today. MichiganMedicalMarijuana.org.
It's Amanda Joslin from the Planet Green Trees, and I'm here with the Amanda Report. We're going to be discussing a little bit about edibles and dosage. If you're a new patient, it's always nice to get an understanding of how much to take, because they taste delicious, and sometimes it's very difficult to tell how much medicine you're getting, because it doesn't taste like medicine. It tastes like candy or brownies or lozenges, lollipops. We see all kinds of different sour gummy bears and things like that. A lot of different choices when it comes to edibles. In addition to those things, you can also dive into the area of Rick Simpson oil, or RSO as it's commonly known. One of the important things to remember is that edible dosage is going to vary greatly based upon the individual user. People may be in a line and each of them are given a 100 milligram gummy bear, and if each of them eat it, they're all going to have very different experiences based upon their metabolism, based on medications that they're currently taking, based on their own just hormones. When we're talking about dosing, it's really important to consider all factors. If you're new to cannabis, your tolerance hasn't really built up that much, then you're going to want to take a low dosage and work your way up. Edibles take approximately 35, 45, sometimes an hour to kick in. So don't be fooled and eat a corner of an edible and think that it's not going to work and then just eat the rest of it. You might wake up and it's going to be 2 days from now. And unless you are really looking for a good sleep, maybe you don't want to sleep for 2 days. So the good news, no one has ever died from the use of cannabis in the documented history. Edible is a great option to go with, and there are all different types. A basic dosage starts out at maybe 15 milligrams, and to treat chronic conditions, we go up to 100 milligrams and over. The effectiveness of this will be 4 to 6 hours, as opposed to when you're consuming and smoking it, and in that way, it's about an hour and a half to 2 hours before you redose. And thank you guys for watching the Amanda Report. I'm going to go ahead and sign out now. It's sponsored by Komorn Law, and you can see us on Planet Green Trees. Thank you guys, and back to you.
Amanda Joslin with the Amanda Report, sponsored by Komorn Law and aired on Planet Green Trees. with Sticky was amazing. The customer service was there, the affordability, the product selection, the location of the place, and overall location.
It's time for Planet Green. We have launched. We've completely launched. We've started the show, and it is Planet Green Trees. We're about to embark 2 hours of medical marijuana and marijuana reform in Michigan.
Attention, ladies and gentlemen, the Planet Green Trees show is underway with your host, attorney Michael Komorn.
All righty.
We have launched.
Welcome, everybody. You're officially listening to the Planet Green Trees podcast. Today's October the 15th, the year 2020.
It's an extended applause this week. Yeah, one more. All right. Perfect.
We did it.
We did it, finally. We love our listeners.
Actually, extra applause is warranted tonight, isn't it, Michael? I think that'll be included in Michael's teasers.
Dan!
That's funny.
Shut the audience up.
Hey, calm down out there. Calm down. Calm down. All right, settle
Pull
down,
out
everybody.
security.
Settle down.
Where's Colin? See murder?
That's not. That's Eric B.
No, I know. But I'm saying, where's see murder in a time like this?
I see.
You got to keep people down.
All right. Eric. By the way, we got to calm the studio audience down there. Get out of control. Dan, what's going on with that?
My God.
Where's the security? Am I moved out of the way?
I think we're
Okay. You better? Give me more over here.
Wow.
All right.
I hope you
Dan,
guys...
people are going to begin to believe that studio audience is live here is on a loop or something. It's funny.
Dan, hush him up.
No, that's good. Let me see if I can do some time here. So there's a lawyer, a nun, and a rabbi walk into a bar. Thank you. Good night. Have a good. Okay, fine. One more. The I don't know if you heard news today. Dan, what's going on? All right, can we start?
Thank God.
All right, what do you know? We're starting. Start over. All righty.
We have launched.
Welcome, everyone.
Welcome, everyone. Planet Green Trees. Podcast number 486. Today's date is October the 15th, the year 2020. I am your host, Michael Komorn of Komorn Law, PLC. It says here that there's no episode title, but to let it be known that the show will be called Tegridy Law. We have a lot of things to talk about, some outstanding guests, maybe even some musical performances live. I don't want to give too much away here, but before I tease the topics, let me go through our plan here for this evening. We have a number of guests that are joining us via live here and also in the Zoom room. And let's start with the people here live to introduce them. We've got Dan filling in for one piece
Dirty
of the
Dan.
Bunker Boys. Justin's here also.
He's been applauding
He's hiding.
for us.
He's hiding, although he does not realize it. But this is the exact definition of aiding and abetting.
It is.
He'll be culpable.
Conspiracy.
It doesn't matter. He's there.
He's there.
And he's taking actions that are
He's gotta
moving
take
it
the
along.
heat.
That's unequivocally
That's how it goes.
aider and abetter, even a conspirator.
That's why you got to watch who your friends are.
And let it be known that the aiding and abetting aspect of it punishes the exact same as the principal actor. Justin, just so you understand. All right, moving around the room here, we have my very dear friend, and I understand recently has gotten a Gmail account, Gmail email.
I did.
And
which was nice.
Please welcome Jim Powers.
Thank you, Michael. Good evening, everybody. It's good to be here. Kudos to Dan for all the applause. Thank you, Dan.
Yes.
That's super. Got an exciting show tonight. I'm especially interested to talk about a little piece of legislation from our past.
Yeah.
Bring some clarity.
That's right.
So, anyway.
By the way, we now realize that Dan's applause thing was about him.
It was. It was.
YouTuber and influencer on Instagram is here. You may know her Pug as one of those leaders also.
Yes,
Please
yes,
welcome
he is.
from the Elevation Station, our dear friend Amanda Joslin.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you for having me. Make sure you click on the subscribe to our YouTube channels, not only Elevation Station, but also Komorn Law and Planet Green Trees, because if not, you are going to be missing out on not only a bunch of good information, but also Quincy and, most recently, Daisy.
Quincy and Daisy.
And Amanda, amongst the other reporting that she's been doing, has been reviewing various facilities. She recently did a trip up to the Jamie Lowell area of, what's it called?
East Tawas.
East Tawas, and the name of it is?
The Botanical Company.
That's right.
And I was just rocking that swag yesterday, as a matter of fact. So it was an amazing experience. He has great staff up there, and you can watch the YouTube video review on the Komorn Law site.
Jamie, I like the hat too. I've been wearing that around a little bit too. It fits differently. Look good, but differently.
Yeah, it has a vibe to it, doesn't it?
Yeah, but it's a little higher on the head for some reason, but without being too tight. So I'm sure Jamie had something to do with that.
It's important in a hat.
He is responsible for everything.
That's
so
right. That's right. And Amanda's report on that and other things.
Coming in hot.
Coming in hot.
Coming in hot.
Coming in.
Ah, Jim.
He swooped right in.
As we encourage people to watch Amanda's YouTube clips and performances, let me move on to our next guest. He just hot.
Coming in hot.
As he did last week. I'm not sure what's going on, but whew.
Fireball. He's going by
quarantine.
Fireball. He is my dear friend and retired police officer and all things, everything here at Komorn Law. My dear friend Steve Miller, please.
Thank you, sir. What an introduction.
You
I'm
know-
glad I made it.
You know, Steve,
Came in hot.
I heard, in addition to you coming in hot, that we were also expecting some show and tell.
Show and tell tonight.
Show and tell tonight.
All right.
Show and tell.
I saw you were carrying some. Was that having to be dragon food?
No, that's tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
All right. That was...
Hungry dragons
that
tonight.
bag would be blessings from the lady.
Okay. All right. That's good. That's fine. Look like dragon. I think it's still called dragon food. It actually is what you call dragon. All right. Moving along on our Zoom room up here in the spaceship extension, we have my dear friend and also looking very Rasta Rabbi tonight, and Gangster Cannabis.
Gangsta.
He's tried to dress it up a little with a Bill Cosby kind of look. I don't know what that means these days, but please welcome the king of the Zoom rooms and Zoom meetings, Alan Peisner.
Good evening, everybody. It's a great pleasure to be here on the Planet Green Tree spaceship extension sailing over your house right now. Remember, Komorn Law is sponsoring this spaceship flight, and they're the best place to go with marijuana law problems. If you have a licensing issue or a criminal defense issue, excuse me, contact KomornLaw.com, 1-800-656-3557.
Thank you, Alan. I appreciate that very much. We're looking forward to hearing your commentary tonight. As we move around, we do have one of our first guests in the queue, but before we get to him, let me introduce the person who's responsible for all things, dear friend of ours, master of his own universe, one of the hosts of the Cabbage Cafe, and
Master of baking?
and all that. Please welcome Jamie Lowell. Jamie Lowell.
Glad to be here. Looking forward to hearing about how Eric VanDussen single-handedly infiltrated a group of domestic terrorists and was prepared to bring them down, and then the state just ignored them.
That is what's up next. Do you want to give us any of your whereabouts, Jamie, briefly, of what you've been up to and maybe like what kind of stuff you've been talking about in your Jazz Cabbage Cafe radio podcast on Tuesdays from 4 to 6?
Sure. I was been in Lansing, getting ready to open up a botanical company there, hopefully in early November. And I'm in Detroit now. And most recently on the Jazz Cabbage Cafe, we had Tony Shanaquet on to talk about all the harvesting of hemp and the various projects that she and her husband Mark are involved with. with native cultivation. And we had Kyle Miller, who helped us in the legalization campaign as a signature gatherer and organizer, and worked directly with the campaign, and is now getting his own license to be part of a Class A MMFLA, and works at Meds Cafe in Lowell, Michigan, and with the Sensi magazine. And we talked about the governor's, expungement, signing the expungement bills and stuff like that. So.
Excellent. Yeah, we're going to talk about that a little bit too. There was some. Well, we can come back to that anyway. So thank you, Jimmy, for tuning for that and being here tonight. And without any further waste, let's get right to our first guest who's in the queue here. We don't want to keep him waiting. He's very busy. He's got a lot going on. He's a good friend of ours. He's been a advocate for the. I know him as an advocate for the reform of cannabis in general, and he also works at the powerhouse law firm with Jesse Williams and our friend Fred. What was his last name? Last week, Fred. He'll tell us.
What's Fred's last name?
The lawyer. Wait a minute. We'll get. Wait a minute. But Eric, of course, is
Stig Nielsen.
Fred Stig Nielsen. Thank you.
I'm so sorry.
He was great.
Yes,
we had a
our
whole thing
last
with
guest,
these guys were
yes,
tearing up
I'm
the
so sorry.
chondrin on his.
I was trapped in my
lying as that continues to
cannabis
unfold. But anyways, without further ado, Eric VanDussen's here. He's a videographer and freelancer and Benzie, and is a good friend of ours. He's been on our show before, and I want to welcome Eric VanDussen, please. Eric, how you doing? Can you hear us okay?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
We can. Excellent. This technology is working.
I made it into your bunker.
That's awesome. So we probably could come up with 95 different topics to talk about, but you know, we're in the news, a good way, and you sent me the story, and I was fascinated by it. I'm glad you showed up to discuss this, and this is involving the recent federal indictments for the domestic terrorist, the allegations in those cases. We talked about this a little bit last week. We talked about some of the things in the indictment, but Eric, you for reasons I want you to explain. Tell us how you got dragged into this news cycle, and what involvement. Involvement, I don't mean that, but how do you find yourself on the periphery of in the news relative to this story?
Well, initially, I had a lot of time on my hands, dealing with some medical issues, so I was pretty bedridden and stuck in my house like a lot of other people. So when a lot of these protests that were basically had manned security from various militia groups that stood up next to the speakers on the steps of the Capitol building, specifically like on April 15th and the 30th, I believe. And then they had other rallies in Grand Rapids, I believe, in June. But I took an interest in it because I had a lot of time on my hand, and I started watching all kinds of videos, and actually I started going onto the Facebook pages of different militia members that were quoted in media. Initially, it was an individual by the name of Phil Robinson, who is the leader of the Michigan Liberty Militia.
By the way, when you started, this is something they call Into the Rabbit Hole, if I may, right? This is what's going on. But I just wanted to kind of put some context on it. Keep going.
Yeah, so I'm digging into the rabbit hole, and Phil Robinson is kind of the head of security, and for these events is what his claim was. Supposedly, the Michigan Liberty Militia was requested to serve as security for these events while carrying their semi-automatic rifles and dressed in SWAT gear, is how they all showed up, to stand next to the speakers during these events, specifically on April 15th and the 30th. There's a lot of video out there on YouTube and other places of these events. But on the 30th of April, that's when shit really started to hit the fan with, hundreds of people inside the Capitol building, several armed with semi-automatic rifles, screaming and hollering and trying to push their way onto the House floor or the Senate floor, depending on what was going on in either house. And security was had their hands full. And when I was on one of these, Phil Robinson's Facebook page, I was watching a live stream video from one of his compadres, who's now been identified as William Null, one of the individuals that was arrested and is now housed in the Antrim County Jail. Of his live stream video, this William Null was on Phil Robinson's Facebook page. It was shared on there. So I started watching it and immediately became scared of, I was in fear for people down on the floor watching his vantage point with his camera as he was spanning, across what was below him from the balcony, as he held a semi-automatic rifle, and the security guards there and the police officers are armed with pistols down on the floor. And there was multiple individuals up on the balcony with him with semi-automatic rifles and dressed in basically SWAT gear and making statements that were very concerning to me.
Eric, let me clear something. Is this so now you're talking about as you're exploring this with the time you have on your side, you begin to you're exploring the people that were named in the articles, the Facebook pages, the things that they say, and you're watching now a video as they reported in here, and you're watching this guy Null in the video. If I'm not, are you talking about while they're at the Capitol?
Yes.
Okay.
So William Null is at the event on April 30th, and he was supposedly with this Phil Robinson individual, basically serving with his other Michigan Liberty Militia members as security for an individual named, I think, Ryan Kelly, who was doing all these Patriot rallies at the Capitol and in Grand Rapids and other places, protesting the government, or the Governor Whitmer's orders, COVID orders, with guns. They felt they needed to do that with semi-automatic rifles for some reason.
Well, I mean, listen, there's different perspectives across the state on a lot of different issues, right? I mean, I don't think we've ever been more politically divisive, and I think the visual of what was taking place in the Capitol at that time, and understand, like, you're quoted as particularly disturbing, right? I mean, that's a fair assessment at a minimum. That's without the following up and seeing the video taken from these groups within the event. Like what I'm saying? Like, it's kind of national news or picketing. They got fucking guns in the, Capitol. Like, that's shocking to some places. It's totally appalling. Others are like, oh yeah, Second Amendment right. That's a Gun Owners Act, and that's how they, you know what I'm saying. So there's a ton of that going on, but you're giving some more insight. I mean, that may or may not be enough. There's a genuine debate to be had on whether or not guns should be carried at all on the state capitol, right? I mean, right now there's no prohibition. I know there's, but even the mention of that can make can create a whole debate and stuff.
And the courts will certainly figure that out,
right?
Because first it'll be legislated, then it will be.
Well,
exactly.
the thing that's really concerning to me is the Capitol Commission has the absolute authority to ban firearms in the Capitol building and on its grounds, and they've been told that by AG Nessel, and they've been told that by an independent firm that they hired to try and get a contradictory opinion that so they wouldn't have to follow what the AG had already told them. So they spent over $5,000 on another attorney to get the same opinion that they had the authority to do so, and they're just failing to act because some of them just don't want to do anything. They just say, oh, we don't have a budget to do it. Well, you can, a bank you're prohibited from carrying a semi-automatic firearm into a bank too, but you don't have security guard and metal detectors in every bank in the world. If you just prohibit it and you tell people they can't do it, well, 99% of them aren't going to do it if it's prohibited, and the 1% that want to buck the system, you call security on them. I mean, that's my humble opinion.
No, let me ask something. The information you have that you just were discussing, is that from a lot of free time FOIA requests that you may have made? Like, how did you find out about the Capitol, essentially, capitulating to the, I don't know. I mean, by not doing so, their excuse that they can't has been, nullified. I mean, how did you find out about that information? Has it been reported and stuff?
Well, it's been reported, and I've also been submitting FOIA requests to the Capitol Commission for like videos, because they're doing a lot of Zoom meetings right now, videos of their meetings, minutes of their meetings, and press reports about their activities, which in a nutshell, they're doing absolutely nothing. And the legislature is doing absolutely nothing either. And what it really comes down to, when you look at the perspective that you get when you're watching William Null's vantage point with his camera, and he's panning across the senators that are debating and saying a prayer, and he's panning from one to the next. When I was watching it, was envisioning the scope of a rifle and how much time, through that 30-second span of his camera when he's going
picture for person per person, yeah.
From person to person, I'm sorry. It really concerned me, especially with the stuff that was coming out of his mouth when he's laughing and saying that, one gentleman says, if the shooting starts, I'm going to go up north. And he says, no, I'm going to have fun hunting. And he's laughing when he's saying it, and at the same time, he's on his walkie-talkie with his compadres that are outside and inside the Capitol, all armed. They're all in SWAT gear, and they're talking on walkie-talkies. And William Null admits on the video that he was encouraging his other compadres that were not being allowed in because they said they were over capacity, because shit was hitting the fan right then. So the state police said they're over capacity, wouldn't let anyone else in. And he was encouraging them to bum rush this Capitol security and the state police to get in to access the Capitol building. That's what he was doing on that video.
No, it wasn't. That's what the video shows.
It's absolutely what the video shows.
Well, just so people understand, Eric is not. Eric works and has worked for Jesse Williams. I wouldn't call him a person that's like a person that's complaining about crimes. He's not like out looking for a victim. But this was so shocking to you, Eric. There's a difference between, and I'm not saying you're the one that's going to judge, but it was shocking enough that made you pick up the phone and call. And I'm saying this in the context that, in working as a lawyer and knowing what there's some rules of some things like not calling the police is not good. They're not going to help you. You don't want to get dragged into a case. You're not trying to, it could cause a lot of problems if you don't have to. But you felt some kind of duty and some kind of responsibility to notify them that they may not be put it all together, right?
It caused me enough concern. In addition to that, Senator Pelosi, have you seen that picture that she took from down on the floor up into the balcony?
Are you talking about Dana Polhanke?
Yes. Have you seen her?
Yeah.
Her tweet, the photo she tweeted.
She claims she carries a bulletproof vest into chambers now.
Yeah. So that photograph, the person that I'm speaking of, William Null, is in her photograph, and that video is being shot. Well, she is photographing him from the floor, and the video that I watched was his perspective looking down on her. Yeah. And I was terrified for her, because I don't understand how anyone could work under that type of situation.
They can't.
If you, and they're debating hotly contested COVID legislation that was being proposed and debated that people felt the need to come and protest about with guns. I mean, it's just a recipe for disaster, in my humble opinion. That these are my own opinions. I'm a Second Amendment supporter. I don't own a gun personally.
So am I, and I do own firearms.
Hold on, but let me say this. Is it the presence of them on the Capitol alone?
It's that a lot of people. It's the whole point, and this. I mean, for a while I was asking what's the big deal here, but what was conveyed through pictures like Senator Polehanky and stories from professionals that we all know that work in Lansing, and the fear that their families go through from their family members going to work in these conditions. That's not something that should be tolerated.
No, that's fine. But I'll tell you what. But the point is that even without the insight of Eric's, kind of close up of what's being said, the military tactics, the shocking manner in which they're laughing about shooting, and the kind of film layover of the scope versus the camera, like poof, poof.
It's scary.
It's very, very scary.
Especially knowing what these people are being alleged of threatening. I mean, it's very scary.
Well, what I'm saying is, even without Eric's kind of vision into that, microscope into that, just the idea that they're surrounding the floor where the debate's going on, and they have automatic weapons that they're allowed to carry.
They're not automatic.
Semi-automatic.
They're not automatic.
That would be.
But and the point is,
they would say Diano. Who knows what I'm talking about? That would be enough, you would say. But but instead they're now,
because they're
how many people did the Vegas shooter pick off in a matter
with
of
an AR-15?
how long?
Yeah,
it was at a bump stock, which are illegal right now.
So but there's two things, because the world saw this take place, and they didn't hear from Eric VanDussen, and wasn't pointed out. There are people that saw it take place and watched these videos and went on board, maybe that's cool. I maybe want to be part of that. There's other people that they're not. Maybe they know. Maybe there's some investigating going on. Maybe they're, But let me ask you this, Eric. I know that this article sets forth that you had tried. It was back in March that you sent this information, or April?
I believe it was May 20th.
Okay, and then how did that happen? Did you contact them and speak with someone live?
No, I sent an email to the full board of the Capitol Commission. I believe it's a 5-member board.
Okay.
And that's when I knew that they were debating this issue of whether to ban guns, because it has been reported publicly. And I sent them a link to the video and an email outlining some of my concerns, and saying they should watch the video, because it appeared to me that the senators were like sitting ducks, and it would be like shooting fish in a barrel.
Got it.
And I opined that it would be gross negligence to allow that to continue. And that same email was CC'd to the Attorney General's office, the head of the state police, and every legislator in Michigan, the senators and the House members, with a link to the video that I had posted on my own Facebook page after I had basically swiped it from that Phil Robinson's website or Facebook page.
And did anybody respond to you?
There was one senator. I forget her name. I could find it for you. It might take me a little bit, but there was one response, and it was from a senator. I believe it was a female senator, and she responded that she was very concerned, and that it was she would be proposing legislation or supporting legislation herself to ban guns in the Capitol building. There are some proposed bills that have been submitted. I think they're dying a slow death in some committee somewhere, is my understanding at this point.
They're in GovOps. That's why.
Yeah.
And then we all know what GovOps is. It's where bills go to die.
Yeah. So around the same time, I started a Facebook page that's linked to my my own Erico VanDussen Facebook page that is called Ban Guns in the Michigan State Capitol. And on that Facebook page is basically an archive and collection of interesting articles and information that I gleaned from the Facebook pages and internet about this whole issue of guns in the Capitol and, you know, a lot of the militias that have been going there.
So you told them in March, and nobody responded.
In May 20th.
Sorry. And one responded, not really, hey, I'm going to support that bill, thanks for reaching out to us. And then what happened after that? So then, I mean, you continue to follow.
One thing on your, to go back to your question, jump a little forward, I guess the Record Eagle who ran that article about this recently did interview someone from the state police that had acknowledged that they had received my email and that had turned it over to like the Special Crimes Division linked to the Capitol Security or something like that. I believe, you know, I'm paraphrasing what they said. I'd have to find this.
They didn't think much of it, in other words. They didn't take it as a real threat. They saw the links and the information that you provided them that you found to be particularly disturbing. They did not see it the same way, or didn't see it, didn't watch it.
I have no idea what the truth of it is. You know, up until a couple days ago, there was like 170 views of that video of William Null that I posted like around May 20th onto my YouTube page. Now, I think there's like 500 or something in the last week. So there's been 350 or so watches in the last few days. And I don't think anyone, if they would have opened that email and watched that link that I provided to all the legislators in the Capitol Commission,
right.
I think if they had watched it, they would have been just as concerned as I was about the just garbage coming out of this idiot's mouth. He just seems like a deplorable human being. I've watched other interviews of him. He's one of the individuals that this Berry County sheriff made comments about, well, maybe they were just going to legitimately arrest her under this Michigan statute, which is completely ludicrous. The Michigan Sheriff's Association issued a letter the last day or so totally denouncing his comments on that.
The statute that it refers to in that interview is specifically says with a warrant. There is a statute that allows for citizen's arrest. He didn't state it right, but
yeah, if you view a felony in your occurring in your presence, or
if a police officer asked you for assistance, right, or someone in public safety.
This trial, it's bullshit. They said they were either going to take her out into the middle of Lake Michigan on a boat, whatever the hell that.
Well, hold on.
Or to Wisconsin. They weren't even going.
These are for the allegations that we've read about and then made forth by, you know, a CI that they had inside. Now they may have gotten a CI into that, Eric, because of you. Maybe.
I don't know, you know, because
but it's around the same time, right? There's
the link, the link here, you know, between the Wolverine Watchman, you know, so this William Null guy and his brother were, you know, they wore these Michigan Liberty Militia patches at the Capitol building and at these rallies that they were providing security for, but allegedly in the information from the courts I've seen, they only refer to this Wolverine Watchman militia that I really hadn't heard about until these charges were authorized. So it's like they might be members of multiple militias, each one of them. I have no idea.
Well, yeah, and it begs the question, which I saw our Attorney General get asked by one of the national news services that was interviewing her, and she was being, you know, very diplomatic and you know, complimentary of the law enforcement as they acted. And she was bluntly asked, well, do you think you've resolved the militia problem in Michigan? Is it over? And I don't know if it had fully been like I think like she made. I don't think she ever went into this thinking like we gotta knock this out, or this is a thing we're gonna have to worry about, or even get this far. But when you start talking about this, that I don't know. There's she didn't lead in one way or the other, but it certainly didn't seem like part of the. In other words, part of the messaging was not we are still investigating. There's a there seems to be whatever like just it was like they reported they got the guys they wanted and that's it, right? They scooped up a bunch.
Well, they just charged one more today.
I saw that right. This the 13th, right?
14. I think he's in Wisconsin, 14. And they're going to extradite. Yeah, I think there's 7. I think there's 8 state and 6 federal defendants currently.
Well, I'll tell you what's really interesting. There's an interesting aspect of this, Jim. I'm not taking the wrap up. And I don't know, should we take a? I think. Let me ask this question. There is this undercurrent, which I saw our Attorney General speak about. I think it kind of came out with the interview with that. What's his name? The sheriff in Berry County. But what I'm getting at is that. And I was appalled when it happened, and it appalled me in the same, sense of the way that the MMA was treated, which is that these sheriffs and law enforcement were deciding what laws they were going to enforce or not. They're deciding they didn't like the MMA, they never voted for it, they weren't going to enforce it. And when I saw these law enforcement agents saying we're not going to enforce the governor's order, because that was a messaging that's troubling. We are a
kind of.
We're a country of laws, not men, right?
I'd say the one caveat there is that her orders were found to be unconstitutional.
Okay, but
President Trump was telling all these nut jobs to liberate Michigan at the time.
It may have been unconstitutional, but until a court rules on it, they are duty bound to follow the laws that exist.
I don't disagree. Well, okay? I shouldn't say that. I think that I think the whole.
Listen.
But
listen.
So we should enforce unconstitutional laws. And I'm not saying whether the intent behind them was positive or not. I'm just simply saying the Michigan Supreme Court said that the law that they were based on, where she sourced her authority.
Listen, someone tried to make the same argument, but what you have ultimately is the discretion of what laws are to be enforced by people that are not.
All the agencies do it. Prosecutors
all the time,
it.
And that's the like.
It's a thing. They told me about it. We had friends that we went to see and do events with prosecutors that talk to me about prosecutorial discretion. So
yeah, it's I've noticed that more so when I first got involved in all this with you guys. That
just pick and choose.
It was county to county, community to community, with regards to how enforcement went for marijuana and medical marijuana, and it was absurd and ridiculous.
But but this is what I'm saying. So
I'm with
the question is this: it's if you have the law that's in charge of enforcing it, saying the law doesn't matter in any aspect. Now someone was debating with me. Well, you wouldn't want them to enforce an unconstitutional law if it was unconstitutional. I mean, yeah, no, I don't, and give their discretion. But it's not something that should be the regular. The regular should be, and this is the way policing has become. I mean, the way policing is now, Steve, as you know, is there's no discretion given. Can't let someone go on a drunk drive. There's no discretion. Pull someone over, you got to give them a ticket. And that's one of the complaints in the governor's. Tell me why the prison system is overcrowded.
But on certain things, they can have discretion.
Well, one of the problems why we have overcrowding in jails, and the problem with the system is that there are too many tickets and misdemeanors and probation given.
Too many jailable offenses.
Instead of warnings. Nobody gives a warning. No one's allowed to give a warning. It virtually never happens. Right? Maybe a traffic ticket.
They could change a lot of these ridiculous misdemeanors. One, either get rid of them, or two, turn them into 20. If you need enforcement, turn them into $25 civil infractions.
What you're talking about, though, is officer discretion. So it goes both ways.
I'm saying that they suggest that they institute policies that expect officers to see. That's what we don't have. it's an interesting case. I remember this happening.
But would you rather it be that way?
I'm saying to you this. This is what I can accept.
Okay.
It's a case People versus Tui. I remember I won a case based on it, which was this. It was a guy that got pulled over leaving a 8 Mile men's club. And they were alleging he was drunk and allegedly flashed a gun or something like that. So police get called. They find the car on 8 Mile. They pull him over.
The Detroit police?
Yeah. He's drunk. Oh, Dearborn. Mm-hmm. He's allegedly drunk. They end up arresting him. And there's a passenger in the car. And the question is, do they get to impound it or not? Right? Yeah. Now, the driver's not intoxicated. Why can't he take the car with the permission of the arrestee? Right, Steve?
Right.
Dilemma.
So the passenger was going to jail, not the driver?
No, the driver was going to jail. They took him away. The passenger was sober. The driver says,
take my car.
Take my car.
Valid license?
Valid license.
Okay.
Good to drive.
And it wasn't drinking.
Was that totally sober?
Huh.
So, right?
Most cops are going to let that guy drive.
So what they say is they decide to not. They make this guy walk home. They seize the car. They do a inventory search. I think they found $15,000.
Yeah, sounds like they inventoried the shit out of that
20
car.
cartons of untaxed cigarettes, which I'd never seen before. I didn't even know that was a thing at the time. It was like many years ago.
Cigarettes.
Yeah, they go down to Kentucky and bring them up or something like that. Anyway, Alan, you know what I'm talking about? But
Alan's a big cigarette runner.
Untaxed cigarette business.
Anyways, the point of this case was this. Back to the discretion. Listen to me. The point of it was this. I had the officer on the stand. I go, well, if all these facts are true, which is you got another driver, the driver who's being arrested is telling you to let this other person go. I mean, to let them drive the car. He doesn't want it left. He doesn't want it towed. He's got another option. Why? What allows you to decide to seize the car? He said, officer discretion.
Yep.
Okay, now
there is
the bend in that case was.
But that's a way that officer discretion worked against.
Well, this is.
A member.
I won the case.
Right.
Judge Runco, who got in a lot of trouble, was going to be a Supreme Court judge. I remember in his office he had a picture of him and Reagan shaking hands.
Oh. Boy.
But he agreed with me that, and there's a case, People versus Tui, where it says that discretion can exist, but it's got to be a policy within the department.
Oh.
See, in these situations, it's the officer's discretion.
So it has to be
That's okay.
It has to be
but to
consistent.
have no policy and just.
Well, if it's policy,
do what you want,
if it's policy,
go.
it's not really discretion, is it? That's kind of.
Well, the officer can exercise his discretion.
He's talking about a policy
within the office.
Yeah, but
that gives the officers discretion.
Oh, I see.
Right.
There's a policy
It's
about discretion
instead of no statements whatsoever.
I see.
I think we had a similar. Our policy was similar. It was the towing of the vehicle was up to our discretion.
Yeah.
And if you had either could park it safely for the guy somewhere, or if there was a passenger that could take it. Or even, if you were a nice officer like me, you would allow for him to call or give me a number to call somebody to come pick up the vehicle for you so you don't have to pay the impound.
Unless they're belligerent, then their car's getting towed.
Right. Then you're not dealing with that. You're not able to have a conversation with them to get all this out.
That's
but
right.
I mean,
that's a reasonable thing.
That's the way I would have handled most things.
Why do you know that discretion exists? Was it a policy that you read?
We had a policy.
There you
That's
go.
what I was saying. We had a policy that said it was our discretion whether we towed the vehicle or not on an arrest.
And there's a case on point about this. It does, so anyways, back to this capital thing. So my thought was, we're talking about discretion, unfettered discretion, good, bad, and whatever situations.
Yeah.
But we're talking about, like, we wouldn't want them to have the discretion for the MMA to ignore it, right? It's not a thing. And we certainly don't want to...
No, but we would certainly want them to have the discretion to do things like ignore the public health code.
But they're not doing that.
Well, but that's my point, is they have in the past. If we remember to our childhoods and all the stories of people getting pulled over with small amounts of marijuana, the police dumping it out and making them grind it up. That is a good way for that situation to end.
Okay, but let me say this. We know that's from the world of community policing.
Yes.
Okay? We are in the state of
Don't
military...
make me tell your parents.
Military policing, okay? Military policing. Now, so what I'm saying to you is if you have a military police force, the discretion that in those situations is bad.
It's bad.
If you bring me back
that's
to
because the military police force is just a bad thing to begin with.
Okay, but so no things work in those situations. I understand the point you're making, but you can see how. So the real point is this: in this situation, when you have a militarized police force, right? Because that's what we're living in, and they're saying don't follow the law. Don't follow the law. It's unconstitutional. The question for Eric is: do you connect this anti-governor and proclamations of it being lawless and unconstitutional inflamed this desire to want to try her for treason or worse? What you say, Eric?
I say it's a lot of craziness, and anyone that would say or do anything to encourage nut jobs like these to
it's nuts. Yeah.
Carry arms to the Capitol or contemplate in their head the ideas that they're alleged to have been thinking about, and
contributing.
Yeah, and they also, according to the affidavits, actually took action to do surveillance. I mean, those are overt acts. They're not just talking. No. They're actually considering, taking part in some crazy shit.
Yep.
And if that is even being contemplated in your brain, there's some screws missing. That and I'm not one to always throw the racist type allegations out there, but in looking at these individuals' activities that they went and they protested against a Confederate statue coming down. This Phil Robinson character has swastikas and Confederate flags posted on his Facebook page. At least he did, and I captured screenshots of them. I'm not saying they're per se racist just because they have those on their Facebook pages and they go to these rallies with guns to prohibit Confederate statues from being torn down. But in my personal opinion, if someone is supporting the Confederacy still, they've got a mental issue, and that's my opinion. If they still want to support the Confederacy,
they lost. Newsflash.
I think I don't get it.
I have good information too that one of the members of this group had some affiliation or paraphernalia regarding Antifa.
Yeah,
and I have verified that to be true with a good source. So
yeah, there's been public reporting on one of the gentlemen. He's charged federally, where there's a video that I've seen where he's calling Trump a tyrant, and I think it's that guy. They all look crazy.
He's just angry.
That's what you get with the extremes.
That guy's half crazy, it sounds like.
Well, but he just may be an angry guy that likes to carry his gun and protest.
I mean, maybe.
Doesn't matter what the cause is. He'll just go protest and try to stir up some shit.
Maybe, but
maybe someone come at him and be able to shoot him or something like that.
Well, what I'm kind of interested in, I'm not wishing anyone to get offed, but it would be interesting. It would be interesting to know who the CI is. There were undercover FBI agents and probably troopers as well involved in this breaking this plot up. But there was a CI or one or more involved in this. That's been reported, and it's indicated in some of the affidavits and warrants. And I'm just wondering if it's another one of these individuals in these photographs with all these, one of these uncharged individuals that was hanging out with them that I have all kinds of photographs of.
I'm sure it was. I'm sure it was.
Potentially be the CI that, I think did a good thing too, because he was involved in some crazy shit, and it just got a little too fucking crazy for him. He's like, this shit's gone a bit too far.
I'm done. I'm out.
You mean
we got to take a break?
All right. Eric, we wait for a moment or two and give us some more? Okay. All right, great.
All right.
This is the Planet Green Trees, episode 4000.
Tegridy Law.
860. We're calling it Tegridy Law. We'll be right back.
The Planet Green Trees Show.
Join the Michigan Medical Marijuana Association today. MichiganMedicalMarijuana.org. The MMMA is focused on the well-being and safety of medical marijuana patients. The MMMA site provides the most comprehensive and up-to-date news on legal issues, politics, research, cultivation, as well as the various strange products and methods of cannabis use. Come join the discussion with the most knowledgeable and passionate advocates in Michigan today. MichiganMedicalMarijuana.org.
I am Earl from G3 Cannabis Therapy Network, and you are watching Planet Green Trees, the original and #1 podcast in Michigan for all things cannabis and legal news.
Hey folks, this is Amanda Joslin with the Amanda Report, sponsored by Komorn Law, aired on Planet Green Trees TV. We're here at East Tawas, and man is it beautiful weather, but a little windy. We're about to do a review on the Botanical Company.
The Planet Green Trees Show.
Join the Michigan Medical Marijuana Association today. MichiganMedicalMarijuana.org. The MMMA is focused on the well-being and safety of medical marijuana patients. The MMMA site provides the most comprehensive and up-to-date news on legal issues, politics, research, cultivation, as well as the various strange products and methods of cannabis use. Come join the discussion with the most knowledgeable and passionate advocates in Michigan today. MichiganMedicalMarijuana.org.
This is Amanda Joslin with the Amanda Report, sponsored by Komorn Law and aired on Planet Green Trees TV. Relief in Wayne is a very large dispensary, and they have two separate sides. Although they service medical patients only at the moment, their plan is to open up the other side of the dispensary to allow for adult use or recreational. It'll be really interesting to see how, as the years progress, Relief grows into their space. It's a massive location, and there's a lot of good things that can be done there. If you're interested in having your product or facility reviewed, or even advertising with Planet Green Trees TV, reach out to us. www.planetgreentreestv.com. So folks,
Amanda Joslin here with the Amanda Report, signing out. Until next time, stay safe. Hey everyone, it's Amanda Joslin here with the Amanda Report, powered by Komorn Law and aired on Planet Green Trees TV. Alright, so picture this if you will. You go to your local provisioning center or you just hook up with your caregiver and you have a nice big old sack of Mary Jane. So you're very excited, you get home, you get it all out, start getting in there, getting your hands dirty. And then what you do is you're left with the stem. So today we're going to talk about what do we do with all of those leftover stems. Sticks and stems are inevitable. You can have a beautiful bag of ganja and you're still going to be left with some stems. So every part of a cannabis plant can be used for something. That's why it's such a great little gift to us all. And so there are three main uses that we can collect and use stems for later. The first reason would be to make it into some canna butter. The second reason is we could use it to infuse into some topicals. And then the last would be some cannabis tea. You should absolutely not smoke your stems. Not only will it not get you high, but also, you guys, it's going to give you a monster headache, and it's probably going to tear up your throat and make you cough a great deal. So, can you smoke stems? I guess you could, but please don't. So the name of the game is to reduce, reuse, and recycle. So start saving those stems. What kinds of things have you done with your stems? Give us a comment below. This is Amanda Joslin with the Amanda Report, powered by Komorn Law, aired on Planet Green Trees, signing out.
Dr. Bud Green here. Welcome to our
Bill Schuette led the charge against medical marijuana, and even after the will of the voters was decided and the support was enormous, he still continued to fight against the will of the voters, keeping patients from the medicine that they need. So I think it's important that we all speak up on what we think about this initiative. But when the voters have their say, their will must stand.
Hi, my name is Jim Powers with Michigan Parents for Compassion. You are watching Planet Green Trees. Planet Green Trees is the #1 podcast for marijuana and marijuana-related discussion in the state of Michigan. We've been at it for over a decade. There's no greater place to get your news, and there's no greater host in that we have attorney Michael Komorn, who you should absolutely call and contact for all of your legal needs. Planet Green Trees is the #1 marijuana show in the state of Michigan. Tune in to Planet Green Trees every Thursday at 8 p.m.
Here's Michael Komorn with more Planet Green Trees.
All right, we're back. Right on the set. We are back. Hey. Thank you for staying with us. You're listening to Planet Green Trees, episode number...
Alan!
Doing it live.
We're doing it live, Alan.
486. We're currently speaking with Eric VanDussen, Eric L. VanDussen. He identified some freakish behavior in this Wolverine crazy group, Michigan crazy Wolverine group, and reported to the Michigan State Police and every other important official that would be in potentially be in harm's way 5 months before the indictment was announced. I would never try to give an excuse to the police, but you could maybe think like maybe they were onto it, knew about it, and didn't want to do anything at the time. Maybe it contributed to it, or maybe they just ignored it. That's all interesting. But we were talking about whether or not...
I'm sure they would say, other than the state police already responded, that it got stuck in their spam filter.
Possibly.
Spam filter.
But they look like they have egg on their face now, if they didn't know, if they didn't really know and were following it all along. But the question was, these are allegations being made by the governor and the attorney general, that those police officers, sheriffs, who were, putting their discretion aside, in this particular case, they have said, those sheriffs that said it was unconstitutional and appeared at those rallies contributed to and helped in many ways, according to the attorney general, the continued development of this organization, that may have even contributed to, if there was some fear of violating the law as they gathered, which there isn't, but if there was fear to speak ill of the law that applied to them, it should apply to them. And I get the disparity. See,
so they shouldn't have been allowed to do that?
We talked about this on day one. This is not about the underlying subject matter.
No.
Can we be intellectual enough to say, put aside the mask issue, make it some other law that you think should be enforced? I don't know. But whatever the case is, when there's unfettered policy or direction on the and you see, it should also be known to the public, because a policy arguably could be identified as what's being enforced, then you have some accountability. Sure. But to just let them free willy-nilly, And I realize also that the sheriffs are unique in the state of Michigan. Eric, you can attest to this. They are obviously elected officials, and also are, you know, in a way, popularity contest. And
in a way,
arguably, I mean, it is popular, and arguably a reflection of the community's feelings on things.
It's the intent.
I mean, it may be fair that Berry County is pissed off. You know, a lot of people are pissed off. They're bred a lot of pissed off,
yeah, but that's sheriff's
militia-thinking kind of people.
They're all cooped up and pissed off.
They go past. They go over the line.
They go to a rally, and you hear a sheriff encouraging them not to follow the law.
Over the line.
Okay, and you know, what does that mean? These guys didn't understand. Well, I mean, for the non-law-abiding citizen, I can go a long way with that. You know what I mean? I can go a long way with that. Well, the sheriff, you know, I mean, illogically in my mind, you know, what that means to the past.
But it's insane.
At least in Berry County,
it's insane. Right? It's the whole thing is insane. When and just like we talked about last week, when it went from debate and disagreement and discourse to kidnapping. How the hell do we make that leap? And now we're painting people with this very wide brush, which is an even bigger problem. Because now we have a group that is now associated with this crazy-ass behavior. And it's not good. It is increasing the schism in America today. And I'm going to tell you that if we allow it to keep increasing like this, once we reach Election Day and the results are tallied, no matter who wins, we will all lose because there will be such chaos. It's going to be...
Jimmy's getting deep.
It's going to be horrible.
Who's we in the wind?
The citizenry. The people these people are supposed to be serving.
What about them? Tell me what you mean. Be more specific.
What I mean is that we have two parties that are at each other's throats. Yep. And meanwhile, we have this virus that is continuing to plague our nation, where we have legislators that are supposed to be collaborating and coming up with solutions so that we don't end up in the place we were in back in March. And they are so damn focused on trying to prove each other wrong that we're never getting there. And the problem is that as you continue to do that, you continue to fuel these extreme groups. And the far right is not the only one that has extremes. We have the far left as well. And those extremes almost always end in violence.
Almost always.
So what do we need? We need legislators that are willing to put aside their differences and work together to come up with solutions that everyone can tolerate, that are going to allow us to continue to live our lives as closely to normal until this situation is under control.
Well, you know, the main thing I'm asking about is, I mean, what's the reason why they would I mean, whoever's on the Capitol Security, Eric, whoever that is, I mean, is there an intimation of some kind that they are pro Second Amendment carry and or their political views are so far-reaching?
I would say,
go ahead.
I would say some of the members, yes, just from my observations, from watching their meetings and reading their statements in the press. What I do find completely perplexing is that still as of today, if the legislature is in session in Michigan, the House or the Senate, individuals armed with semi-automatic rifles can still walk in Michigan's Capitol building, and no one can stop them from doing so. There's nothing preventing it from happening tomorrow.
Except for
when they're open for business.
Except for a Capitol Commission policy.
That is completely insane. That either the Capitol Commission, who the AG and their own private attorney opined they had the authority to ban guns in the Capitol and on the grounds, but they should start at least in the Capitol building. And the legislature, you know, they can't even come together to get a bill to protect their own lives. I mean, it wasn't just Democrats that were going to potentially be killed or kidnapped or whatever they were going to do when they were planning to storm the Capitol as well. They weren't going to like differentiate between Republican or Democrat when they possibly shot people while they were rushing the Capitol building. So you think in their own self-interest, they'd be like, this shit has got to stop, and they'd have a bill on the governor's desk to sign to ban guns in the Capitol building tomorrow.
Yeah.
And I don't understand, from that perspective, looking up into the balcony, which I'm sure has happened to all of them several times. They have Second Amendment rallies there once a year, and then these periodic rallies that occur where armed people walk into the Capitol building while they're debating, and that's just fucking crazy. And it should not continue. I don't understand who could make an argument that should continue. I don't know anyone.
I got a great idea. It's probably a little too much to handle for the moment, but it is certainly the solution.
Uh-oh.
Ready? Executive order.
Yep. Executive order.
Come on.
Order, yeah.
That'll work.
That'd be good. What's so insane is the Capitol Commission has banned signs. So you can't carry a sign.
Yeah,
But
and
you
know
can
what the
carry an
reason?
AK.
The reason why you can't
I need
carry
it
a
for deer
sign
hunting.
is because you may damage the artwork or the historic renovated walls with your sign.
Yep.
Oh.
What would happen if you scratched your AK down the side of the wall?
No, mind the stray bullet. No, mind that.
I heard the other reason is because 2 is more than 1.
It's so crazy.
Damn it, 2 is more than 1.
Yeah, 2 is more than 1. That's
right?
True.
I mean,
it's true.
Pure Michigan.
Something solid like that.
But it's only typically even the Second Amendment people that I know, and they're friends of mine. I mean, I support the Second Amendment, and friends and acquaintances that I know that support it a hell of a lot more than me. But the vast majority of them all agree that shit should not continue. So why does it still continue if we have
because the Capitol
can't get shit done.
The Capitol Commission wants to punt because they don't want the potential liability of making the decision.
Everyone's dropping the ball. The public.
There's all
Wait a
kinds of
second.
balls being dropped.
If Jeff Frazier was here, he'd say that the state police did the same thing. We've all seen them testify.
Juggle for a while, and then
Somebody's going to drop a ball. At least one.
Listen, we've all seen the Michigan State Police testify before legislature, Judiciary Committee, passing bills, dispensary bills, with their guns on their holsters. Right?
But we all recognize that police officers, especially when it comes to firearms, are allowed certain rights that we don't.
First of all, we still the perception that the person testifying before you has a gun on their versus everybody else is absurd.
Are you going to tell me that people feel intimidated because a police officer in full uniform has their service arm?
When they are demanding that the bill's not passed for the reasons that they say that's some cop logic, yes.
I guess.
Why else would they do it?
Because they're in uniform. That's how they go everywhere. That's how they go everywhere.
Jim, they don't, Steve.
It's not.
They can testify without their gun. And when
I will sign your petition, Michael. So ban cops from carrying guns in the Capitol.
I don't think they need it.
How about in a courtroom? How about a courtroom?
They're supposed to be trained hand to hand, right? Aren't they supposed to have that?
A lot of judges don't like when they're testifying with a gun in the courtroom, right? I mean, it's a totally different.
I just don't think it's a big deal.
I mean, listen.
I don't think it's a big deal either.
Steve, if somebody got on, if somebody,
fine, whatever, fine. I'll tell you what. Go ahead, Amanda.
If you did not have your firearm, and this was, pre, us, okay. So you didn't have your firearm, and somebody got willy-nilly on you. You would beat them down, wouldn't you?
Absolutely.
You don't need your firearm.
Let me tell you why.
Because you're in shape.
Want to hear why?
And that's what cops are supposed to be able to do. If you can't, you shouldn't be a cop.
It's true.
All right, here's my reason why police officers should not be wearing weapons when they testify. You ready? Sure. Because there's a jury instruction for you non-lawyers that says a police officer's testimony should not be given any greater weight than a layperson's testimony just because they're a police officer. That police officer is the only person that's going to be carrying a gun in that courtroom, testifying with a gun on. That's a special privilege. It sets him or her above everybody else, something that they can do, and it distracts from the principle that that testimony is not to be given any better testimony. You already.
So should they not wear their badge?
You know, they shouldn't. They should.
Well, Michael, the next time it happens, file a motion in limine.
I know, I will. I mean,
be like, make him take a sidearm at the door.
I'm not talking about the. I'm not talking about
Oh
the
my
Capitol.
gosh!
I'm saying,
Sometimes when they try to blend in, it really looks
worse.
terrible.
Yeah, it does.
Terrible, like so bad. Please, just wear the uniform. Don't try
Well,
to
Michael
blend
doesn't
in.
want him to wear the uniform.
I mean,
what do you do with that one?
I go with whatever my lawyer says. Okay, that's what I do.
I'm saying
That's a good idea.
A police officer comes in. He's wearing a uniform.
Yep.
It stands for something. He's got a shiny badge. He's got a hat.
Yeah. He's there in his official capacity as a police
it's-
officer.
It's
That's right.
different than everybody else. I mean, I'm just saying. Listen, I get it, but with that principle that we're not supposed to give them any extra credence,
Yeah.
and with the upper hand that they're already given, that's kind of built into. That's one of the reasons they're riding the streets.
So let me put
that in the bowl and
let me
smoke
put
that one.
well let me put a potential situation. You're a criminal
Wait a
defense
minute.
attorney.
I don't think they're riding in
right?
the streets
He's
because
criminal
police
defense.
officers are testifying in uniform.
Michael, in your
Guns.
in your years of practicing law, I'm sure you have either been in the courtroom with or that with some sort of offender that could have caused great bodily harm to you or to anyone else in the courtroom.
I'm not talking about the bailiffs.
Okay, so
No,
the
the
bailiff should be
people,
allowed
the
to have the
people.
guns.
Security
I
are doing
see.
security. They have a
Okay.
duty to. I'm saying the testifying officers. That's all I'm saying.
Okay. I mean, if it would make everybody feel
Let me
better,
tell you a
I don't,
story.
I guess I don't see the harm. I just don't think it's a big deal.
Well, let me tell you, if your goal during cross-examination is to piss off, frustrate, and aggravate that person,
You think he's going to pull his gun? How many times has that happened?
I've had an officer say to me, "Are you calling me a liar?"
Okay.
Well, I hope you brought your lunch, counselor.
Well,
and
maybe,
I said,
maybe
and
he
I
was going to
said-
school you.
I said, I did bring my lunch. Then I realized, Judge, will you tell him to not threaten me like that? The guy with the gun? Okay.
You better pack
You
a
understand what I'm
lunch.
saying?
Yeah.
He should have been written up for that. He really should have. What department was that?
Take one guess.
Western Wayne.
No. St. Clair County. He had the same
Oh,
guy that
St.
attacked
Clair.
our client in the hallway. Anyways.
I
listen.
was watching a live, Vonda, Judge
Oh, she's
Vonda.
great.
Okay.
Love
So
her.
I was watching one of those things on YouTube, and there was an officer that came in as an expert witness, and he was not dressed in uniform. He was a younger guy, probably a rookie type of guy, and she was not very happy with him. She said, "Sir, is there some reason you're not dressed in uniform?" She just totally ripped into him.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it was really
I
interesting.
like her too, but I've had judges tell women lawyers that they're not allowed in the courtroom with the outfit they're wearing.
Really?
Yeah, it's short. I mean, there's some of that
Wow.
shit going on. You know what I'm saying? Like I've seen.
No kidding.
And
I think we just got to get out of this
All right.
thing of
listen.
telling everybody what to do all the
All right,
time.
listen.
Jesus, so why don't we stay out of people's business for once?
We must stop pointing fingers. Pointing fingers does nothing.
Too many damn
Steve.
too many
Just kidding,
damn
that's like a-
lawyers.
That's like a South Park bit, okay? All right, so here, this is what I'm going to tell you we're all going to do right now. Just kidding. These are the topics we're not going to talk about,
No, we gotta
which
talk
are
about the,
lawmakers, police governor warned in May. Oh, we did talk about that. Supreme Court declines to hear marijuana case challenge the DEA's restrictive classification. It almost has a little bit of continuity for the Michigan case where our office and the Cannabis Council are suing on behalf of John Sinclair to unschedule marijuana. But it isn't, because the state of Michigan legalized marijuana and is selling it recreationally and collecting taxes. The same can't be said for the federal government. We'll talk about that next week. Investigation Detroit Department Drug Unit finds fraud and corruption. Okay, like here's we could. I got 20 days to do on that. Home of Medicine employees allege toxic workplace environment. Senate Bill 858, introduced by Senator Barrett, a bill to amend the Emergency Managers Act. Jim was going to rant about that for a little bit. How are different types of medical cannabis working for different diseases? I do want to rant a little bit. I want to make Eric stay and listen to this, and I can do it in 13 minutes or less. Jim, what is the story of Senate Bill 858, and why are we so outraged?
Yeah.
Well, so here's...
Tell us, Jim.
You know me, that I'm an independent, and I like to think that I'm a realist in most things. Some people may agree with me, some people may not, and that's okay.
Rationalist. Call yourself a rationalist.
But the allegation that's been tossed around lately by the Democratic Party in Lansing is that the Republican Party had, since March, to codify the governor's executive orders into law so that we wouldn't run into the issue that we're now running into with the Supreme Court finding the 1945 law that she was basing her EOs on unconstitutional. Senate Bill 858 was introduced back in April, and it codified the majority of her EOs into law. And it was introduced by the Republican legislature. It was sent to the governor on May 20th, and the governor vetoed it. The governor cited the reason she vetoed it was because, or I don't believe, this is what I've been told. I should say it's secondhand information, so I don't know this to be complete fact, but the bill established expiration dates for the EOs. And the argument was that the legislature would continue to legislate, and as the pandemic evolved, that they would continue to amend the law. So the reason that I'm upset about this is because the Democrats have cited over and over again that nothing was done. Well, something was done, and it was passed in both chambers, and it was vetoed by the governor. So again, what I would ask for from our legislature is to stop it and to stop blaming one another. We are in a pandemic. I can tell you, my child my children are both in online school this year, but I got an email from the elementary school today saying after a week of being in session in this Track A, Track B program, they've had their first COVID student-related tests come back positive. And at the end of the day, we have bigger problems to address than who did what 6 months ago. Let's focus on today. Let's focus on moving forward.
Yes, sir.
And for God's sake, stop the blame game. It's not interesting.
It doesn't solve anything.
No, we need you guys to work together, and we need you to lead us through this epidemic and show us, or this pandemic, and show us how we're going to get through the winter, because at this rate, I'm really concerned that they're going to end up talking about shutting the state down again in some way, shape, or form. And that is not going to be good for anybody.
No, it's not.
No, definitely not.
Even the WHO and the CDC say that lockdowns are not good for people.
No. We have only just begun to see the real, fallout with emotion, with people's mental health and just a whole slew of things. Their businesses failing, leading to divorces, the kids that are home with abusive parents, and all kinds of stuff. I mean, come on now.
I was in the dollar store one day, and this woman was talking to ran into one of her friends, and she's like, "Yeah, Bill just has Jimmy over every day. They just sit on the couch drinking and watching TV."
Yeah. Yeah, she's about ready to kick Jimmy in the butt.
I think there was a lot of that going on, and I'm guessing there was probably a lot of that going on during the quarantine.
Yeah, well, the unemployment rate for it's not that great for the the folks that had been most affected by it.
No, people are still out of work.
Yeah. So not only did the unemployment benefits go, as we know, they went from 600 to they cut it off, and then they gave them a 300 or something like that. I don't remember, but it's still it's starting to affect everybody.
Yeah, not good. Not good at all.
So, Jim, thanks for covering that topic. It's
that's what really grinds my gears.
I wanted to move on to the next thing, but I'm troubled by this thought. Maybe, it was, by the law has some long-term implications on the rules of the emergency manager, right? So she's holding out for a bill that's going to empower the executive branch to.
But it didn't amend the Constitution. It didn't amend.
Well, there's the laws on Constitution, so they're really recreating the new rules going forward. So
if they would have enacted this law, the fact that law was found unconstitutional wouldn't matter.
Of course, but in this new law that they're enacting that she rejected would become the new law,
Right.
and it gives a lot of the executive, it was executive power with a check of.
The legislature.
It may be a bigger. It may be. I mean, listen. She may have a legitimate argument as to the limitation it puts on the governing. Her ability if there's a real emergency. I mean, it's funny. It's funny. This is a good. This is a good explanation for the problems that we have with executive power. Mm-hmm. Okay, I mean, the legislature. She's right. The legislature is built for gridlock.
Yep.
Do not expect them
slow.
to act efficiently.
That's
and
right.
even, but you'd think
that way on purpose.
if there was an emergency,
they can move. We've seen them do it.
Yes, that's true. But you can see the problems that exist, whether you like the governor or not. Just anybody, the parallel that I think we can all recognize is it's fair to say that the people that opposed President Trump executive orders regarding immigration at the very beginning that were overturned unconstitutional. Remember, he was quoted as saying, "The federal judge is Hispanic. I'm trying to build a wall." Like forgetting. All right, but that's a.
No, it was more like the judge is a Mexican American. Will she be able to make a impartial decision on this whatever issue regarding the wall?
There's
it was just like that. That's exactly
what was said. In any legal
said.
circle, that is offensive. I'm just saying to you.
It's not racist.
It is.
It's not.
It's illogical.
To call a person of Mexican descent, a Mexican is racist?
No, that's not it. No, to say that the reason he ruled against him was because of his Mexican descent, ignoring his Americanism, the fact that he was born in America.
He didn't say that. He said, "I wonder if he's going to be able to make an impartial decision." He didn't say he did that because he ruled against because he's Mexican. That was not said.
You know what?
It was not said.
Steve. It's not something to fight about. I'll get the video.
But I'm just telling you, it was not said. Yeah, let's watch it.
Cue it.
We're not doing it now.
Cue it up,
Dan.
I have
We're
something
doing it
else.
live.
We're doing it live.
This
Roll
is not.
tape.
Listen.
I just like to know the truth. Don't say things that aren't true, or exaggerated, or not exactly what was portrayed in what he said.
Well, I'll tell you what.
That's how everything gets spun out of control and is wrong.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what, Steve. I'll agree to disagree with you, and we can watch the video and decide factually.
Okay.
But really, my whole balance, not in a bubble, comments was the executive order. Let's leave it at that. The executive order by Trump, some kind of ban, some kind of immigration ban, was found to be unconstitutional. Period. Okay.
Yep.
And there are many people that applauded that don't like Trump. I'm not saying I'm one or not one, period. And the people that were supporting Trump, likewise, were pissed for this because they want immigration executive order action. And those are the same people that are opposed to
Executive orders.
Executive orders
Yes.
by the state.
Nobody
by the
knows
governor.
what the hell they
And the people that were against Trump and are the ones that are supporting this governor. So this doesn't make any sense because they're picking subject matters, not logic and laws. Because you got to have a law and the discretion of who's going to use it. See, that's the thing. The thing with the executive order is if it is too powering, what's the check and balance that would stop some tyrant from maybe her, maybe somebody else, right? You see what I'm saying?
Only the courts at that point.
But if the bill empowers them to do that, and the courts are there to not, say she can't do it if the law supports it or he does it to support it. See what I'm saying? Like the empowerment of the executive order, I think, should be contemplated in temperament. I don't know. It's like it's
Well, I
not,
agree.
it's not for her
I
or for him.
totally agree. We don't want any executive to go unchecked.
Well, I'm saying it's not how our government was set up to operate. It's not.
No, it's
the legislature's supposed to. Now you're talking about gridlock, and then you just accept, no progress. Anyways, I didn't want to get into. That wasn't even worth it because it sucked into the time for my story, which I had lit. All right, 13 minutes. Maybe I can do it. All right. I'm going to tell a story right now. Something that doesn't happen every day. Kind of contrast it with the last 2 days of what's been happening here at Komorn Law, where
this is a theoretical story.
My head was involved. I'm going to know. It really happened. Yesterday, which was Wednesday, I had a oral argument before the Michigan Court of Appeals on an issue of the MMFLA immunity. That's right, the Michigan Medical Licensing Facilities Act of 2016, which sets forth and says a license holder is immune from everything and is allowed to have as much as they want and sells, So it was kind of interesting because it's certainly a case of a case you would never think would happen, but a person is charged with a crime in when he actually. And here's an important point. At the time of the raid, he was deemed a temporary operator. Everyone know that time, like if you apply by a certain date, you can continue to operate until such time as you're
temporarily.
It's until such time as you're either denied your license or it's approved. And somewhere along the line in December, Laura said, well, we're going to change that rule, and we picked a new date. And the Green Genie case, is that what it is? The Borrello opinion in 2019 said, if you give someone a license, you can don't call it a comeback. Don't call it a comeback. A license is a license. Don't call it a temporary license. You can call it a temporary license, but got the same full force and effect as a license. It's an entitlement. You can't arbitrarily come up with dates without due process. You can't say, oh, we changed our mind. You told them it's this, and if you're going to take it away, you got to find a reason. Now, that context, that was 2019. 2018, when it happened, there was, a distinction of what was a temporary operator and a whatever. I mean, it wasn't, but the law enforcement looked at it that way, and somehow, because the idea that this would happen to a person with a license, they get charged with a crime for an allegation of improper storage, is insane.
Yes.
Okay? I'm going to talk more about that case. Anyways, so I argued for the first time, I think, the first issue, and understand I had brought this motion to the trial court, and the court denied my motion, saying something to the effect of, no, there's enough facts here to get to a jury, and deciding and saying the jury will decide, it's very interesting, the jury will decide whether or not your client intended to deliver. Well, like my client, it's not illegal for my client to intend to deliver because he's got a license to intend to deliver. But, and furthermore, immunity is not a question of fact for the jury. So the trial court, the Court of Appeals agreed with me. They referenced Hartwick and Tuttle. I discussed, we've got a lot of direction. And, I could tell from the very beginning that they were going to want to expand the record, send it back to draw out more testimony, and then have the court make a ruling on, the guidelines of kind of the Section 4 immunity from Tuttle, which would mean we are going to have the burden of going forward, the burden of proof, it's a preponderance of evidence, and the judge can judge the credibility of the witnesses, and the Court of Appeals will review that de novo. All right, I'll leave it there. The next day, today, and I'm just saying in contrast today with yesterday, was I felt like from the second the thing started, I knew they were going to remand it. And I felt like I was just, no, please, I'm trying to convince you and persuade you, and, well, counsel didn't, and isn't it, yeah, no, but this is, and just, kind of, but all the questions told me that, and I just, it was I couldn't get out of the gate, you know what I mean? They're kind of like, all right, so today, I had a fascinating situation in a case that started in, I think, 2015. It was a traffic stop in 94 in Taylor, Michigan, I think. And Wayne County, Michigan. So we had exams and stuff. Bound over to circuit court, and I get Judge Boykin, Ulysses Boykin. And, I did all my dancing and my motioning and evidentiary hearing stuff, and it dragged on. And literally the courtroom prosecutor, we had like 3 or 4 different prosecutors. And this is not but this is an interesting part of the story. This is the era of when, Frank Tulusky, I was calling him to testify in all these cases, and he was our expert, and he was testifying that the marijuana was not dried when it was seized, and he'd have some formula and whatnot. And but what I did is and he wasn't sure if he really wanted to testify in this case, and I had him on call or whatever. But, nobody knew what was going on. So I kind of moved some pieces around with the witnesses. They had the lab person, they had the officer. I got each of them to say they couldn't tell if it was usable or not. So my client got on the stand and said it's not usable. I'm like, Judge, even if you want to judge his credibility, nobody can say it was usable. My client's... So anyways, we carried the day. It's a weird ruling. The judge, but the judge dismissed it. He kind of conflated Section 4 and Section 8 a little bit, but I wasn't saying anything. Dismissed the case, and then that day that we walked out of court, this Mansour case came out, which is the one that kind of intentionally tries to overrule Manuel, which is not the law right now. But it was funny because a few days later, I saw the prosecutors, like the 3rd or 4th prosecutor in the case, couldn't really argue a lot. He saw me. We made eye contact in the hallway of the courthouse, and he didn't know what to say to me. He knew he just read something that my victory shouldn't have happened because of this case that he just read, and he didn't know what to say. I just kept going. He's like, and he saw me when I walked by. Anyways, so that case, which resulted in immunity, was also a forfeiture matter had been alleged or whatnot. So they seized some cash out of his vehicle, $11,000, and 15 pounds of marijuana, 16 pounds of marijuana from the trunk. And it's all kind of issues the search and whatnot. Of course, my client's a caregiver and a patient, and it doesn't matter if he's immune, as we've determined. So we're now in forfeiture court, and it's in re $11,000, and whatever.
And whatever 15 pounds of weed is worth.
Right. Well, just the weed, but so what happened was, and it's interesting because Wayne County does a tremendous amount of forfeiture. They've got a lot of people working in the unit. They got a lot of volume of the cases. It seems very disproportionate. And they've notorious for taking cars and doing stings and, vice grabs of cars and pay your money for the car. That case has been up and down. But they're extremely disorganized. Mm-hmm. And this is the second time this has happened where the rules are if they seize property that they want to forfeit, they give you a notice of intent to forfeit. You have to make a claim. The person who's probably has to make a claim saying, I'm claiming that as being mine. There used to be a bond that was required. There may have been in this case. If it's over, now there is not. And now you need a conviction. But then what happened was we made a claim. And upon the claim being made with the seizing agency, they pass it along to the prosecutor, who then must decide whether they want to file a lawsuit or return the property. If they want to file, those are the only two choices. That's what the statute says. And they have a reasonable amount of time to file a lawsuit, a forfeiture complaint, that is. And that reasonable time has been somewhere between 4 months and 6 months, different cases, federal, state, but it's certainly not more than 6 months.
That also is insane. They can just keep your shit for 6 months.
Right.
While they figure out if they want to keep it.
So they file a complaint maybe within that period of time, and they get a summons of the complaint, which is 90 days or 120 days, and it expires before they serve anybody. Mm-hmm. So we're well past the 6 months now, and they're still holding the property. And they get another complaint. They try to serve that as well, and they can't. 11 months, 12 months go by. We're well beyond, and somehow a case gets generated. Totally
without service.
Right.
Huh.
So I don't know. It was, there's such nefarious activity going on when they can get a new summons and just cross off the date. It was, nevertheless, this is what happens. We in December, I don't know, November, December, after the criminal case was over of 2019. I filed a bunch of motions in the forfeiture, which included motion for summary disposition, immunity, and motion for summary disposition, and mandamus, because the statute says you've got this amount of time, you got to do it this way. If you don't do it, you've not fulfilled your government obligation, your duty under the statute, and the judge should enter an order mandating you to return the property. And what happened was the assistant prosecutor that was on the case was gone, and a guy who is, I think, he's either he's second in command in that forfeiture unit. He can remain nameless for the moment. And he shows up and he says to me, I can't really argue with you. So what I want to do is I want to dismiss the case. And in a civil case, you can't just dismiss it. You need stipulation, or the judge will dismiss it. But I've got all these arguments that I want to make, like attorney fees and sanctions and immunity and blah, blah, blah. So he approached the bench, and he wants to back out of this. Trust me, like he wants none of this mess that's going on, etc. And a couple times he tried to start up with me like, well, there's just so much 15 pounds of marijuana. I'm like, listen, you got an order over there. Your office didn't appeal. We're past 6 months. You had your day to appeal. It's like, you're right. And I said, listen, I know it's not a good position to be in, and I respect that you're dismissing it because you have no case instead of just fucking to fuck around. You know what I mean? And so we approach the bench, and I say, Judge, we're going to end it, but I want to reserve the right to come back and argue the thing. Well, what are you looking for, Mr. Komorn? I go, my client wants his marijuana back. And he goes, okay, I'm okay with that. What about you, Mr. President? He goes, well, I have no problem with it. I don't have a problem with it. I'll ask the police and get back. So it's like December-ish. We leave, and I'm on top of this order. We get an order drafted that includes this language. We're going around, passing around, him and I, and Allie, McCormick, lawyer in our office. And we get it signed by the judge, sent back January 22nd, okay? So, and that's just the return of the money with the right for me to come back and go back for the marijuana, whatever. Yeah. Marijuana or damages and sanctions and costs. Yeah. So January goes by, February goes by, March, and I start to say, hey man, where's my, what's going on? Where's the money?
Where's my weed?
No, where's the money? Where's the money?
My money.
I want to get
for
the money
weed.
back first.
Right.
And he's supposed to get back to me on whether or not they're going to give the marijuana back, or we got to fight.
Right, got it.
Time goes by.
No money.
He's not responding to me. Nothing.
They're figuring out how much interest they need to charge.
I finally talked to him in July, and he says, oh, you know what I did? I sent it along to the police department a while ago. I haven't heard from them, basically kicking it down that it's their fault. And I'll call them and follow up. I go, what about the marijuana? They're going to give that back? Have they destroyed it? What's going on? I don't know. I'll find out, though, okay? So I don't hear anything. And then in September, I drop a bunch of motions on him, which are like motion to show cause why you're violating this order that was signed in January. You know that old saying, like, excuse me, counsel, what part about my order didn't you understand? And there's no answer that can be given. Because if you have a problem with it, you have a duty to go to the court and ask for relief. You can't say, fuck it, I'm not obeying it. Yeah. It's a fucking order. Anyways, that's the first thing. Yeah. Secondly, it's a motion for interest and a motion to enforce the order.
Yeah.
So we're on a Zoom today, okay, so we filed the motions, and then all of a sudden, we get an order signed on September 30th, which is a little while ago.
Yep.
The same order from the January 22nd, but the dates changed. I'm like, where did this come from?
Huh.
Why is this? I thought something.
The prosecutor sent you this, or the judge.
It was sent by.
Why would the judge?
Electronic filing, I think.
Why would the judge sign an order twice?
Who would present an order to him? Why would I not be apprised of an order being presented?
An ex parte order? Oh, that's weird.
Okay, so so that's on the 30th. Then the prosecutor remaining nameless calls me, and I talk to him, and he says, I saw your motions, and I originally thought we were done with this. I don't remember. Like, he's just blanking out, and fine, okay. And he goes,
maybe smoking.
So what I did is I looked back to see what this is about, and sure enough, there's no order that's been signed, and there's no entry in the Register of Actions through the Wayne County Odyssey online system. And I say, I find that extremely hard to believe, and that would make no sense because when we spoke in July, you had told me that you pass the signed order on to the police. We've had several conversations. Never do we have a conversation that the order's not signed. It's when are we getting the money, and what about the cannabis return?
Right.
So he goes, yeah, but I didn't file. I'm like, right, I go, I'll tell you what, let me check my records, and I'll get back with you tomorrow before our 11 o'clock Zoom. So sure enough, I got the order from January 2nd signed by him, me, and the judge, and the register of action that shows January 22nd, and we put a big arrow on it and sent it to him and said, what
now?
I said, how much, you should start making some offers right now,
Yeah.
how much money you're going to pay us.
That's right.
And he was like, blah, 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 blah. So then I talked to him on the way in, getting ready for the Zoom, and we had, we were arguing about, well, maybe you're right, and okay, the order's there, but here, he starts with this. He goes, okay, you're right, there was a signed order, but I never got it because when you filed it, it was miscellaneous. I'm like,
he fucking signed it.
I'm saying this. I'm saying he starts going with like, my leg was hurting that day, and I was feeling kind of tired, and I didn't think
all valid
anybody
excuses.
would care.
Yeah. I didn't think my guy.
I was
that your
going
guy
out of
was gonna
town
care
in a
about his
week, and I wanted to
money.
clean up my closet, make sure I had all my Hawaiian shorts to take with me.
Tank tops.
I mean, just making, just excuses. So fine. I go, listen, you're gonna. So he says he was really concerned. He said something to me like, fine. And we were arguing about how long back interest would apply to the $11,000
To the order.
in January, and he said, well, it should really be July or whatever. Okay, we'll argue about it. So we get on the record, and the judge is familiar with the case. In the back of my mind, I got this thing, where's this 930 order? Like this, what do you guys do? First of all, on the conversation I had with this prosecutor, I asked him, I said, do you have a rubber stamp of the judge? Now, you would think that would be the most offensive thing you could ask a prosecutor, right? Like, just probably grounds to hang up on me, I would say, But he is so deep into this mess of, just can't figure out what happened, tell me one thing one day, I got evidence against him, that's totally contrary to everything he's saying. He's admitted that we had these conversations, all talking about the order. He just doesn't know what to do. So, me asking this question is like a uppercut in the middle of the day, blah, 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 He couldn't even respond to me. It was, silly. Anyways, we get on the record, and the judge says, gentlemen, he's a very friendly judge, and he's like, Mr. blah, 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 when are you going to get Mr. Komorn and his client his money? What's going on here? He's right on it, And he's like, well, Judge, I'm happy to report. But I did say, after the 9:30 order, they showed up here at the office with the $11,000, gave it back to us.
Yeah.
But
what about the interest?
No interest and nothing. Okay, so he's...
What about the cannabis?
Okay, so he says, Judge, I'm happy to report we got the property, he gave him the money back, but we're arguing about the date of when it's supposed to happen. Mr. Komorn thinks this. And even though the date he was saying was July, he even backed it up to a date that no one even discussed, just because he knows he's wrong.
Okay.
He's trying to make a less
make it look like he's less
frivolous
of an idiot.
argument than it would normally be. So
yeah, we delayed it,
he
but
says-
we're going to give him some more
he
money.
says, so the judge says, what about it, Mr. Komorn? What date? What is it that you're asking for? I go, Judge, I want the full Monty.
Yeah.
I think that the date of this interest should go back not to just January 22nd, but to the date of the seizure in 2015, because they never perfected the forfeiture.
That's right.
Okay?
That's right.
He goes,
illegal forfeiture.
He goes, well, I'm not going back to the Magna Carta, Mr. Komorn. This is
No,
just-
boy.
I'm going to do the January 22nd.
We got a joker.
What else? Yeah. What else are you entitled to? I go, attorney fees. I had to file 19 motions there. I had to do these motions here. I got costs here.
Yeah.
All this stuff. He's like, okay, I can get you an itemized bill. And then he goes, what about the marijuana, Mr. Prosecutor?
Yeah.
He goes, well, Judge, I talked to him about that. It's illegal federally for them to return it, and it was not part of the forfeiture. And the judge said, do you still have it? He said, no, we destroyed it. He said, without a court order, you can't have it both ways. You're going to have to pay him for the marijuana.
Yeah, there you go.
That is awesome.
Paid for the weed.
He says, so these are my orders.
Selling
how
weed
much
to cops.
interest? What are the attorney fees? And how much is the marijuana? And I'm going to invite you gentlemen to figure that out. And if you can't figure out, I'll make those decisions.
Well, I can tell you that every, person that I've known over the years that has, sold marijuana to the police has always said they charge more. So
I'd like to have an evidentiary hearing on that topic. We could have.
Like
by the way,
gram.
That's right.
It was funny. Me and
now commercial cost per pound is very
exactly. Me and Alan had that conversation. I said it's $4,000, and that's enough. I'm gonna have Andrew Brisboe come in, or some licensed retailer or grower. What's going for? Alan was making the suggestion that it was much cheaper, but we could not bring him. He could be an expert, but
Alan Brisboe gave the number when you were interviewing him, just a few weeks ago. He talked about the cost, average cost per gram, which when added up in totality was like, forgot exactly what the numbers were, but 4,700, 4,200 or something like that for adult use.
Did he? I could not reverse engineer that for some reason. I didn't get that, but I know what you're saying. It's all in there. Like I was just looking for the wholesale number. I know you can back it up to, but it's the retail numbers is what it is. So you're only really getting the cost to buy.
Well, maybe he would have opened a retail shop had it not been for the police taking all the shit.
Who?
Your client.
Well, there's a lot.
I mean, you always negotiate high, right? Like,
I
aim
would
for
say,
the stars.
I mean, yes, of course.
Retail value of 15 pounds could be, depending on how you want to look at it.
Yeah, it's kind of
Could
up
be quite
there.
a big money.
Yeah,
big number.
yeah.
And he could have held on to it and taken it up to the dispensary a short while later. It was like October.
Could have done a lot of things
years later.
had it not been destroyed.
Exactly.
No kidding.
So there's, open playing field, really.
They may appeal.
Oh, I would bet on it. This is going to set some sort of precedent.
If
that
it's
they're not gonna like.
They're going to appeal their screw up. I mean, think about that. They're going to appeal. How are they going to take their complete screw up? Mr. Charles Davis can't return a call.
We're not naming names.
Well, if that were the name, doesn't return a call.
That were the name.
Doesn't return an email.
Oh, God.
Totally their fault. Everything you've just
Dan,
spelled
we need
out
you to
here.
edit that out.
No,
everything
you're right.
Everything you've just spelled out here
Let Eric have it.
is.
Good.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. Go ahead. You're right,
Yeah,
Steve.
how many times, we've had several instances where we found out that evidence was destroyed without a court order, and I think we'd all be surprised on how regularly that occurs throughout the state.
And what is the remedy for that, Michael, according to testimony from your expert witness in the area of evidence and
do you know
property?
that the person right over there, sometimes confused with the Steve Miller Band,
Fly Like an Eagle.
Fly Like an Eagle, is also a retired police officer and an expert, qualified and testified as an expert in Oakland County Circuit Court before the Honorable Judge
Warren,
who I saw was just appointed as the business judge. This is like the toughest court, one of the toughest courts, but federalisty, federalisty nonetheless. And Steve got qualified as an expert in evidence collection, protocol procedures,
processing,
and got on the stand and said when those Oakland County sheriffs destroyed that evidence, what we would do, we would report that to the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office. We'd write them up, and they'd probably be suspended without pay. So there's expert testimony by yours truly over here. His truly. Ours truly. That's good shit. Anyways, it's, the problem I've had, so it's funny because I've had to come up quite a bit. Of course, there's I mean,
think about
Darryl Berry's case was they destroyed all of his stuff like 4 days after they took it, and they claimed that it was because it was, causing what do they call it? Sporo.
It was getting moldy and stuff.
4 days. What is it?
Spoliation?
No, that's
aspergillus.
Yes, aspergillus. Or some stuff.
That was in our case. That was the one I testified in. They destroyed it because the immediate necessity to get that plant material out of their property room, because he had just been to a class and learned that marijuana in
the civilian witness had, the girl civilian witness that read it, like one of the dispatchers brought it back. I go, what class, whatever. It was like a flyer that they put on the desk, wasn't it? It was something like that. I don't know.
And so yeah, aging marijuana plant material in the property room can cause employees to start having the breathing disease of aspergillus.
You know,
that was their reasoning of doing it without authority from a judge, prosecutor, or anybody else in this matter. I don't think they asked anybody.
Well, they're the experts.
They really seem to like to plop it all on the scale in like their lawn bags and stuff like that weigh extra poundage. So, you know, what would be 1 pound ends up being 10 pounds. You know, but what's a
little water between friends? You know?
Size matters, weight matters.
You know, I'm reminded by this really phenomenal event that should not have continued on, but in the Daryl Berry case, as we've talked about many times, he's come on the show to really do his.
Yeah, we need to follow up with
he'll be coming back.
Berry.
But it started in the district.
He hasn't been feeling good.
Started in the district court, and it was learned that they destroyed the plant shortly thereafter. So we began the preliminary exam, and we started with actually like a spoliation evidentiary hearing, and it's a special position, Steve, in the MSP. It's like the commander. No, like the what is it? It's like the it's a liaison between probably like all the state police branches and the upper management. I don't like it's something. I don't know, something in there. Still like I can't think of what it was. Anyways, but it was like a elevated position. I had this guy as a drug task force officer in a trial that we had in Shiawassee. It's like Mantis or something like that at the time. And they he subsequently moved up. His state police moved up the chain and some kind of head of the something or other. So he gets called to the stand. And, we were friendly because I had a trial with him and whatnot. And he talked about his illustrious career of 25 years of drug tasking and has moved up the ranks here and whatnot. And he's very sophisticated in drug knowledge and blah, 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 blah. And I proceeded to ask him if he had any idea that it's against the law to destroy evidence, that there's protocols in place that tell you how to do it, that there's 4 or 5 statutes prohibiting it. And I said, did you know about all this? He goes, not until I read your motion. Okay? So the next witness is whatever, was just like fodder. Because the second that record got closed, the judge said, like off the cuff, and I'm talking about, we are in Livingston County, the Honorable Sue Reeder, who's, she's a very nice, sweet judge as far as judges go, but you're not throwing out allegations against Daryl, local, he doesn't get a break, that doesn't normally happen. You know what I mean? It's not. But off of the knee, at the cuff, she says, I cannot believe a 25-year commander and sergeant, whatever, doesn't know that you can't destroy evidence, right? And that's how we all would take that. Don't make any excuses. You can't do it. You can't charge someone with it and then destroy it. At least, just...
But then the judges allow it to carry on.
I'm just saying, what happened was she had a knee-jerk reaction out of her gut that we had to put up with this. It's crazy. It's easy for her to just kick it. I don't think, you can look back, she probably didn't do that a lot. Nevertheless, a certain assistant attorney general at the time got appointed to a judicial seat that can be addressed another time. And the new prosecutor filed a motion to reconsider, saying that our case was not a medical marijuana case. And that same judge believed her and reinstated the case.
Boom.
Unreal.
Ain't that a bitch?
I want to go back to really quick. You were saying they're probably going to appeal the matter we were talking about earlier on the forfeiture.
They will.
So let me put it in this perspective. Say you filed a motion in a court, scheduled it for a hearing. You totally shit the bed on it. You didn't prepare for it. You screwed it up. You didn't contact the witnesses you needed to get there. Totally shit the bed. You fucked it up. And you get ruled against. Now you're going to file an appeal because of your screw up. How do the courts look at that when it's the defense attorney filing an appeal because they screwed something up and need to try and fix the matter for their client? How's the court? The court's going to tell you to fuck off your motion is frivolous. But Mr. Prosecutor, and who was at my kid's birthday party last week, or my grandkid's birthday party last week, because we all work together. Where his appeal's okay?
I will say this: the combination of whether it's right or wrong, the order of immunity, it not being appealed in its standing as the rule of law. Okay, they can't, like, no court of appeals can say that this forfeiture action is, and what we've been is not okay because that dismissal was wrong. That's done. So you got immunity, which carries the ball here, removing any penalty of any kind from the circuit. That's number one. Number two is the absolute mess that they made of the filing and not doing it properly and just conceding after all this time that they had no case, the dismissal, and the only issue being damages and return of property. I mean, it is a good case to challenge on appeal. We should get some press on that, don't you think? It's like it sheds a light into the shit they get away with. I will say this, though. Eric, I don't know, I had this crazy story. It's on last week's Planet Green Trees, but I had a call from the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office. This is why this is so crazy. They've got a special unit within the Prosecutor's Office called the Conviction Integrity Unit, not to be confused with Tegridy Law. But they have a Conviction Integrity Unit, which is funded by the office that looks at convictions that have been gotten by the same office of Wayne County Prosecutor Kim Worthy. So you got some people like locked in an office with their own separate everything. Investigators investigated all the other prosecutors that work at the office if they didn't,
if they shipped the bet on their cases
or if they didn't break, So they called me because I had a case back in. I'm not going to tell the whole story again, but it was like October 11th, 2001, like 1 month after 9/11. It was a crazy time. You can just imagine picking a jury, the psychology of the world at the time, especially that situation. But fascinating case. Short version is it says murder first degree case, 2 defendants, and after the jury got the case, the judge predicted my guy would walk, and the co-defendant would get murdered too. And in fact, they were both convicted of murder in the first degree. There's a number of issues, confrontation clause. I objected a lot. He had a second murder case, which we pled to murder 2, and we ran it concurrently, but only because of the other one he gets get life. And that case was better. So I got a call from a lawyer like some years later saying that they had a habeas corpus granted, and they were telling me what a great job I did by objecting to the confrontation, because had I not done that and not protected the record, they would not have had a chance. And I never really heard much after that, whether it got, because I knew he had the second case. But they called me from the Integrity Conviction Unit and said, we are setting aside that murder conviction trial that you were part of because they cheated. We cheated. We didn't disclose evidence. All of the things you were arguing about and yelling about during the trial, you were right about. You wanted to call that witness that the judge wouldn't. There was some shit going on there. You were right that you had no reason to know or how they got to your guy in the first place, because some witness gave a statement then recanted, and the jailhouse lawyer that came in and testified that you objected to in the confrontation clause recanted later on also. I mean, it was just the craziest shit. I know if you ever experienced, like losing a murder 1 case, in the office or any big case like that where you you did everything you can, and it's and you deal with it, you try to become better for it, you question yourself, whatever. But then they call you like 20 years later and say, nope, whatever you did to get over it, you're really right. And it's. But anyways, it was just so as I'm dogging them in their forfeiture unit, right? I also can't say that. That wasn't one of the most. I don't even know how to describe it, but just professionally, it was. Something I never thought would ever be a reality. But now I'm going to ask everyone in the Zoom call here to join me in a ballot petition that requires every prosecutor's office to fund an integrity conviction unit, not to be confused with Tegridy Law, but an integrity conviction unit.
It's not possible.
I will sign your petition.
Jamie?
I will too.
Jamie.
It will take away from the prosecution of criminals in some of these outlying districts that have very little staff, if any.
Let me tell you something.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you something. This is my position on this. I brought this up. I had a case going on, and I had they invited me to actually come to the setting aside of the conviction be live. So I'm at the appellate lawyers, obviously, and the guy he sent me a really sweet letter, and he was like apologizing because he thought that his parents and family were shitty to me or pissed at me. He knew that and he thanked me for all this, whatever. But so I had to step out of a proceeding that I was in, and I wanted the judge to hear what the fuck happened. Like I want to say that there's the system's broken. There are mistakes. This thing was buried. No one would have done anything about it. And and he's a retired Genesee County judge, and he's seen shit, I'm sure, and he's out here visiting. And I thought it's a remarkable event. Anyone that's a lawyer that does criminal defense should be moved by it in some way, and recognize that it's an imperfect system. That's why you hear these convictions being overturned, the Innocence Project, DNA and shitty scientific evidence and junk science and shit, whatever. But I brought it up out at this, every and I made a joke like, I think every prosecutor's office should have an integrity unit, and the prosecutor took offense to that, and I was like,
if they're taking offense to it, there's a problem.
There's a total problem because and I would say that this office.
You should welcome.
Has lost its way. They've
because
lost
if there
their way.
wasn't a problem, you'd be like, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
This is an office that's lost their way from what their mandate is and what they're doing. This is a case that, meanwhile, this prosecutor is with a straight face in, October 2020, arguing that a marijuana case is still a crime, and like it's a child pornography case. And it's one of the most offensive. Say anything, support the police, they run the show, we have no discretion, I'm a plebe, and my entire goal here is to try to interrupt and frustrate Mr. Komorn, as he admitted many times. It's one of the most childish endeavors. If the guy had one bit of integrity, because I'm from Tegridy Law, he would resign as a prosecutor or dismiss the case because he cannot argue with good faith that there's such thing in the law as a investigative detention, which translates into 3 days in jail. No such thing.
There's no such thing that's called unlawful detainment.
But yeah, it's kidnapping.
It's kidnapping or arrest or seizure. All right, listen. I didn't mean to but I'm saying to you that the offense of the integrity unit to a prosecutor should not be a thing.
No.
And I think, shit like that needs to be talked about. It does, because there's so many errors in the criminal justice system. There's so many convictions that happen from shit like that. And what I mean by that is just prosecutors that are trying to win at all costs, not recognizing.
It's not their job.
And you know what? This wasn't even a case where the prosecutor. I can't blame the prosecutor. I don't think they told me that they didn't find any ill will with him. It was the officers, police officers. Anyways.
That's a cop-out, because ultimately the prosecutor.
He didn't know about it. He may not have. I don't know. It may be. Maybe they were protecting him, or maybe it wasn't nefarious enough for them to throw him under the bus. He's become a judge. I always liked this guy as he's a Marine.
Yeah.
And we laughed about later the case because it had some really weird things about it, such as. My final point was that I used to do an opening statement, Eric, talking about reasonable doubt, that there's no numerical value. It's not like preponderance where you have 51%, but if you were going to somewhere like 90, 93%, maybe more, certainly not, it's probably more, but everyone's got to decide that for themselves, So sure enough, it's a identification case, and the one witness that IDs my guy there says he's 90% certain it's my guy. Okay? So, sure enough, the Marine, now a judge, is like, and even defense counsel said 90% is beyond a reasonable doubt. You know, it is closing. I was like, I never said that, blah, 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 blah. But it was like, we laugh about it later on. And I will not use that ever. You know, it never had come up like that. But I don't think I'd try a case like I did back then now. Anyways, there's a whole new thought of it. And as they say, smooth is fast, simple is smart. Let's end on that. We can wrap it up right there, okay?
There we go. Excellent. Tune in next
Great
week.
show.
Subscribe to
Eric, thanks for hanging in there the whole time. I appreciate it. It's a fascinating story. They should do a documentary. Well, you should do a documentary about yourself.
You
really as a filmmaker,
should.
I know. Or they should, because it's really...
and for those,
for
those people that don't know Eric, you should Google him. Google his name next to marijuana. Eric has always been a huge part of our community. He's documented really important cases and decisions and people over the year, and definitely thank you for that, Eric. I've always been a big fan of your journalism, and I know others in the community.
If I may,
ditto.
If I may, all the way from Traverse City, he showed up with a press pass privilege for the Bob Redden case, and videotaped Beth Hand threatening Dr. Budsman.
I remember very clearly.
What's his name, Dr.
What was Beth Hand doing?
What's his
up in
name,
Traverse
Jamie?
City?
Oh no, this was Oakland County. This was
he drove down.
He drove down.
Yeah. That I remember he was zooming from Colorado.
Yep.
And he was like, "What did you say?
Yeah.
You said me?
Yeah, totally
Liability?
perplexed. Like, what are you
the fuck?
talking
What
about?
did I'm the doctor. You know."
Didn't the doctor end up pleading the fifth or something?
He did. He did.
And I went crazy.
He was advised to by the judge.
I started threatening Beth with witness intimidation.
Yeah, no shit.
And then we called Tori's doctor from Beaumont, and she called him, asked him some questions over the phone, and said he was going to perjure himself from his affidavit. And I started going crazy.
The Wild West back in the day.
I know. But Eric came down all the way. Eric has that video, I know. Good old Judge, what's her face?
So I'll just leave you with this thought.
Yes, please.
They've caught 14. How many more are out there? And when will they show their ugly faces?
When are they going to surface?
That's my next. I don't know.
Let me throw.
It's predictable, but you can't predict specifically.
I think that's very well said. I want to throw some frosting on there. How many sheriffs in the region know of where they are and aren't saying anything because they want to make sure? What?
That could very well be.
Because they want the militia. Like they know if shit gets sideways, like the sheriffs are going to call on their militias, maybe. But it would be a tragedy if this friendly discussion right here, where we kind of laugh and intimate possible fears, but it's really not fear mongering. If this little exercise here, it'd be nice if it's it and it's over. But I'd hate to think that it is as deep as it is, and the reality exists that it's out there, and we see something terrible happen because people were ignoring it, and or being downplayed, and or being fueled by some of the law enforcement community. I'll leave it there, but we'll continue to perpetuate any and all conspiracy theories possible here. And
awesome.
Thank you for
Thanks
joining
for joining us. Eric, thanks for joining us.
Nice seeing you guys.
Take care.
Feel good, my friend. Best of health to you.
Thanks, man.
All right. Give my best to Jesse and Fred.
All right.
All right.
Good show.
All right,
Good
guys.
show.
All right. We're calling it, I think. Did we turn it off?
The Planet Green Trees Show.
Join the Michigan Medical Marijuana Association today. MichiganMedicalMarijuana.org. The MMA is focused on the well-being and safety of medical marijuana patients. The MMMA site provides the most comprehensive and up-to-date news on legal issues, politics, research, cultivation, as well as the various strange products and methods of cannabis use. Come join the discussion with the most knowledgeable and passionate advocates in Michigan today. MichiganMedicalMarijuana.org.
Before you plead, call me, Attorney Michael Komorn.
An important and historical farm crop in American agriculture is returned after having been classified as a controlled substance and illegal. On December 20th, 2018, the President signed the Farm Bill, also known as the Agriculture Improvement Act of 2018, into law. The signing of the act was great news for the hemp industry, which amended the definition of marijuana in the Federal Controlled Substances Act. Hemp is now defined as the plant, Cannabis sativa L, and any part of the plant, growing or not, with less than 0.3% THC concentration on a dry basis. The plant itself is no longer a controlled substance. Hemp is one of the most versatile plants on earth. From clothing, fiber, paper, building materials, hempcrete, biofuels, CBD, and medical uses, it has been a part of America's industry for over 200 years. Even the United States Constitution was drafted on hemp paper. The time is now. If you're thinking of getting in the farming or processing of hemp, contact our global experts, legal, and consultation teams to make sure that you're on the right road when you venture into the new hemp industrial revolution. Michigan Hemp Industries has been a leader and advocate for the return of the hemp industry. So come be a part of the new revolution in agriculture in Michigan.